Yeah, I did like
It was like a slow delay. Oh, Dailene is not joining us, and Julie isn't either, I saw. But what did we think of this?
I liked this section, especially how you mentioned Judith, the one on Friends. I was like, oh, this is like me. I like this one.
Mhm. I was like, this. I mean, I feel like in every section or I mean, we only read two sections, but I feel like I relate to one specific one more than the others. And I think that the community one was very it for me. I'm like, my mom has always said, like, oh, you don't have friends, you don't have friends, like, you can only rely on your family. And I'm like, that's not true. Like, I have friends that I feel like are like my family. So I think that whole community thing was very like me. And I was like, yes.
Mhm.
And then there's like also recent situations where I'm like, I can see how like they were talking about like the friends when they fall in love and they kind of like go with their partners and then kind of forget about the friends. I've had a few friends that do that, and then it was kind of nice to see that, like I guess it reassured me like, hey, let them do whatever, and if they come back or if they like, realize that they need to be with their friends and their lovers, like you still have to have those two to like kind of like function, then let them figure it out and not try and be like, yo, don't forget about me kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely made that mistake with my first like serious relationship. And my high school friends that I had been close to, like I fell away from them. And it happened like more gradually. And it was like there was one friend in the group that caused drama with my boyfriend at the time. And that kind of made me like you guys know I don't really have like a lot of patience with drama. So I'm just like, oh, okay, like, it's fine. We're in college. Like I don't really hang out with this person anymore. Um and then Katie, you were with me, through the breakup and everything. But I did stay in touch with my friend Paulina throughout that relationship, and I always remember her saying like, and this made my ex-boyfriend so mad. It was funny. It was like, what did she say? Best friends forever, boyfriends whatever.
Mm.
I
I remember that saying.
I always remember her saying that, and when I ended things with the ex-boyfriend, it was I reached out to just a few friends, the ones that I actually was closer to, like Sasad, and well, I think it was just Sasad that I texted actually, saying like, "Hey, I'm so sorry. Like, I didn't reach out. Like, I didn't know I was doing a wrong thing by excluding my friends. So,
Mhm.
like, will you please take me back, basically?" And of course, he did. He's so nice. But that was like a very big lesson for me that like don't do that again, basically. But similar to you, Judith, like my mom also told us growing up a lot, and I think I don't know how if the size of their family like has an impact or anything because they have a lot of siblings, but it was like, oh, like you don't have friends in life. Friends are just like temporary. And my mom, even in the past, and she's changed her stance on this now, but in the past, she would say like, they're just a waste of time and money. I'm just like, no, and especially when I was like 17 or so, and you guys know I had a big loss in my family. The high school friends were the ones that really helped out and like made me feel less alone. And then in college, well, I just feel like I am still really good friends with many of the people that I met in college. And I think it's one of the greatest gifts I have in my life. And I feel like if there's ever an opportunity to make a new friend, you should like never say no because it just, makes your world grow in a better way because everyone has a different perspective and good things about them.
I love that.
Yeah.
And with friends, I don't know if this sounds bad or not. It's just so much, they're the easiest relationships that you can have because family can get very complex.
Mhm.
Like romantic relationships are complex too. It just feels more, I don't know, not as high stakes or not as, they're just easier, at least for me,
Mhm.
than other relationships at times. But I think being young too, especially when you get into a relationship and you're trying to figure out how to balance having a partner and then having friends and then school or work and then also yourself can be very difficult to figure out too.
I kind of also like the section. I think I mean, it does say in the title all about love and all that stuff, but it's interesting to see that they were bringing in the whole like media and how they don't portray love the right way, and how then I went into like feminism and capitalism, and I was like, if I looked at this book just without reading anything, I don't think I would even predict that they would talk about those things,
Mhm.
which I think is kind of interesting because the way they like, I guess, wrote it, or like it flows really well where you're like, oh, well, the capitalism, consumerism, and then addiction, and then um it goes into like all the problems that then interfere with like us trying to find like not necessarily true love, but like honest love for ourselves and for like, others. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
how do you bring like drugs into this? And I was like, okay, that was kind of cool. That was a cool connection that like you don't really sit and think about unless you're writing like a research paper or something. So,
Mhm.
like,
I like how she was examining it too, because I feel like she was shaking it up a little bit and calling those structures out. And I was like, yes, this is good.
yeah.
I feel like it kind of was kind of reminded me of like some of the things we've talked about in prior book club sessions for this book. And it kind of contradicts the idea that the nuclear family is like perfect and that your family is always perfect and things like that. And you're right, that's exactly what the media kind of portrays. And especially like I feel like in old sitcom shows. But in reality, like sometimes family can cause a lot of trauma, and people do get estranged from their family or to have space. And I read the book, what is it called? The biography of Viola Davis, the actress or the actor. And she talks a lot about her childhood in the beginning, and she had a very rough childhood. And it kind of made me think of that book, this section here.
I do have a critique,
Mhm.
which I felt in the greed section, which was, I overall found that section to be really interesting, but I feel like she made two examples that really rubbed me the wrong way, which one of them she brought up Nicole Brown Simpson, who, you know, was murdered. Well, he was acquitted, but allegedly, potentially murdered by her husband, OJ Simpson.
Mhm.
And she was kind of saying that, we have to consider that she may have been like addicted to the, um, to the trappings of the wealthy, and like by being with this successful man she maybe put herself and her kids in harm's way. And I thought that was I really don't like that insinuation. And to be fair, this was written in 2003, and I've like, I don't remember it that well, but I listened to like a podcast going into the OJ Simpson trial a
Mhm.
little bit, and like about Nicole Brown Simpson, and I don't remember everything about it, but like she was an abuse victim, like, and she was being emotionally and physically abused by OJ Simpson. And a lot of people that are in abusive situations, like, they don't know how to get out of it. And I think it was just a really weird example to bring up in terms of, you know, an example of like, oh, she couldn't like give up, the trappings of wealth. And I'm just like, why is that the example you're giving when
Mhm.
you're talking about an abuse victim who was murdered? Like, and I thought that was a very judgmental and weird example. And then the other example that she gives, although she never named names, but I'm pretty sure that she was talking about Monica Lewinsky when she was talking about the president, and
Oh
then the
yes.
victim who went and like got, went to the media and was talking about her story and all that. And again, like the narratives of the time were very anti Monica Lewinsky, but like, now things have kind of changed in the way we think about her. And she was like an 18-year-old girl who was, you know, who was yeah, she was consensually um participating in the relationship with Clinton, but she was also like very young, and she, you know, was taken advantage of by someone in extreme power, and maybe she wasn't thinking clearly and she wanted her side of the story. And I just think it's like a weird example to bring up when, like, you know, in a book that's all about like empathy and love and like trying to, you know, understand people. I feel like both of those examples were very judgmental and just kind of not very nuanced in trying to make her point. And again, I think it's just like during the time, like people maybe thought of these figures differently, and like, and now that we're in modern day, we recognize more that these were victims of abuse in different ways, and you can't just like judge their actions that way. But I just think like those were two like really poor examples to use. And those, like, I really haven't had a problem with anything else in the book, but I did not like those examples. So long rant over.
I read just now. I think I read this chapter last night when I was really tired and falling asleep, but you're right, it's very problematic. It's victim blaming for sure.
It's also kind of just poor taste to, especially with the OJ Simpson stuff, to make assumptions about someone who is dead
Mhm.
Yeah.
and was murdered.
Yeah.
Um,
When I read that part, I'm like, I don't know if you should be talking about this.
Yeah.
And I don't really, I don't think I really knew about, or like the full story about the president and Monica. I've heard many references, I guess, throughout media, but I never did my own research. I don't know exactly when that happened, and I wasn't a big fan of history. So, or even like when this happened, I don't think I was old enough to even understand what was really happening. So I felt weird about the OJ Simpson thing. I didn't, and I feel like because I don't know much about the Monica and president situation, I think I just, so I feel like I could agree with you.
Well, they don't necessarily teach you that in history.
Let me see what year it was. Oh, it was 1997, so we were very little.
And like I've watched some interviews with Monica Lewinsky, and I watched actually both of these things were an American Crime Story. American Crime Story impeachment and American Crime Story the OJ Simpson trial, which, not to say that those are necessarily like 100% accurate or anything. And then the podcast I listened to is called You're Wrong About, and they do like different kind of re-examinations of cultural and historic events from the past, like, you know, and how they were covered maybe by the media, and like what, you know, the actual facts kind of were, or like now that we have a different lens. And but you know, I think Bell Hooks's kind of attitude towards those women were very of the time, in that kind of judgmental way of like blaming people, you know, especially in the 2000s, I feel was a very like harsh time for women, where like everyone was being blamed, like, you know, like the tabloids like breaking down women and like being like, oh, you're too fat, you're too skinny, like look at you embarrassing yourself, like kind of thing. So I feel like those were maybe like of the time, maybe that's why she's doing it. But I think especially in such a compassionate book, that it was like very problematic that she mentioned. I feel like she could have given better examples than those. And I do see like that she's referencing different stuff of the time. Like she's referencing several dating books that I recognize as like being popular in the 90s or 2000s, like The Rules. I don't know if you guys have heard of that, but it's like a very of the time book about dating. I listened to a podcast that was talking about it, and it's all like about basically deceiving a man into like getting into a relationship with you. And like it was like a bestseller in the 90s, and like these are
That's
the
so
rules for like getting a man kind of a thing.
Ah!
And she's like giving all these examples, and maybe she gave those two examples because they were famous women of the time, but I think our perspectives have changed a lot, and you know anyway.
And I can see that, especially because like I saw Corina's comment that the OJ stuff was in 95. I was born in 95, so like there's no way. I only know about that because they did the different series. There was a series, right? Or like they
Yeah,
kind of,
American Crime Story, the
yeah.
the one on the Ryan Murphy, the one that had like Sarah Paulson, and it had um
I can't
the guy
remember.
from This Is Us, and it
Maybe.
had Cuba
But
Gooding Jr.
my
playing
sister was
OJ.
watching it, and I wasn't even watching it myself. I was just in the background, just like, oh, cool, you know. So if I hadn't watched that, I feel like I wouldn't necessarily be looking for that information.
Or the
Um,
Kardashians. They used to mention it a lot all the time.
exactly, and because of the Kardashians, I know a little bit about it. Not that I super follow the Kardashians, I don't, but once
No.
again, it's the show that like was being put on TV when like maybe I was watching it. Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, it's interesting too that it's a very good point that you bring about the whole time, because I think you mentioned it last time, Paola, I think you did, that all of this to us is like, oh yeah, it's normal, it's like it makes sense. But back then it was more like not necessarily controversial, but more of like, what are you talking about? This is, maybe I'll follow it. And this now in modern times, this is for us, we're like, oh yeah, the um so either way, it's a good point. But once again, if I if I had not known that, if you had not pointed that out, I'd be like, it's just an example for me that I'm just me, that I didn't really think much of while I was reading. Or I wouldn't even know the books
I think
either.
the only reason like that those two really stuck out to me is because in recent years I've like sort of learn more about those, because I was 5 in 95, so I don't recall the trial.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I remember the Monica Lewinsky stuff though, like not in terms of like, I just remember seeing all over like the tabloids when I was at the grocery store, and like
Mhm.
not really understanding what it was. Like same with like JonBenet Ramsey, like I remember seeing her all over like the tabloids and stuff, but like not knowing what it was.
JonBenet Ramsey.
She was the
That's-
one who was like a child beauty
Yeah,
queen,
she
and
still be popping up on tabloids.
yeah,
Didn't they recently find something too that it was like for in her case?
yeah, I think so. I don't know. I mean, I think that was another one where I feel like I read like I listened to a podcast about it, and it's like it was very moral panic kind of blown up at the time, but I think it was like they think that probably like one of her family members did it, I think.
I'm glad you brought it up, Paula, 'cause I think it is problematic, and I am glad that we're re-examining. I think I also kind of just skimmed over it, but I didn't really think too much of it at the moment. Um, I wanted to ask you all what you thought about the part where the author is talking about like the men and how they're either like boy men, I guess, or like really like don't want to talk about your emotions at all, men. I wrote down the name of the book because the Peter Pan syndrome, men who have never grown up, because it sounded interesting. And how it says though they have reached adult age, they are unable to face adult feelings with responsibilities. They're not necessarily in touch with their true emotions.
Well, I have two brothers,
Mm-hmm.
and it I think it's easy to like categorize, especially like the opposite gender, try to categorize them.
Mm-hmm.
But like between my dad, my brothers, and my boyfriend, they're all very different men. and they all have like very different strengths and weaknesses. And there's like a spectrum. Like my youngest brother is probably like the most immature, but also easygoing and ambitious one. And then my dad is like the most responsible person I know, but he does lack like some more like connecting with people and like maybe that more emotional part. My oldest brother is very sensitive, like in most times a good way to other people's emotions, but he lacks ambition. My boyfriend is very emotionally intelligent. So I don't think the way she said it, you can just like categorize them in those ways. They're much more complex than that. And in my opinion, a lot more sensitive in some ways too.
Maybe it was different because in the time she wrote it, it's like men were still very closeted.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's like a very new thing for men to actually start showing emotion or be open to showing emotion. Or maybe it wasn't as common. Like I'm sure there still was, but it wasn't as common.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought, that a lot of what she's writing is from the perspective of, I think she's probably like in her 40s when she wrote this.
Mm-hmm.
And like even her students at that point are older than we are. Like her college students in 2003 are like a whole generation kind of, but well, a generation and a half to a whole generation above us. So I think some of the attitudes that she talks about like nowadays are more like 20 years in the past for us, and things have changed a little bit. Other things have not, but some of the like, like the way that the men were raised that she was dating is very different from the way that men were raised that we are dating.
Mm-hmm.
So, and also I think that it was a little bit more like homogenous back then in terms of like traditional values, or the traditional patriarchy was more like kind of widespread maybe than it is now. Or even just like, I think people were just a little bit more similar back then maybe than they are now. There's just like more diversity in our experiences that at least that maybe happen, and also just like get talked about. So I think she's trying to make like these generalizations to be helpful, and maybe back then it was easier to make that generalization. But I mean, now kind of how I think of it is like in terms of like how certain men of our generation are feeling. I think the like she was talking about like loneliness, like they're feeling disconnected from their emotions and from other people, and some of them are want something to blame for that, and they're blaming it on women, or they're blaming it on society, and they become very like they become like incels, or they become like people that want to feel really negatively about society, and then the internet allows them to just kind of like keep being isolated or keep like hearing one viewpoint. And that's kind of like what I would say is like the big issue of our day in terms of like antisocial, anti-loving kind of behavior from men.
I feel like when I read it, it confused me because I feel like in my life, the people or the boys slash men around me, like I feel like they have gotten a lot of help from like their moms or like females around them. So at first I was like kind of like see this from my experience, and there has been times like I've been frustrated seeing like, well, why do the boys get all the help and the girls like, okay, you have to be perfect and you know, you can do no wrong, but no one's gonna help you as much and you have to do everything and then you have to have like a job that's still like uphold traditional values. But I think I appreciate you two pointing out that it's like also I have to remember like when this book was written because I think I keep forgetting that as I'm reading it and that makes a difference.
Yeah, because there's stuff in it that is like so of our time and like so relevant and like universally kind of um continuing to be really timely. And then there's these like little moments or little things in it, and it's kind of like a little bit old school. So, oh, another thing I learned, by the way, I went and I looked at her Wikipedia because I was just interested. And apparently, for the last like half of her life, she was celibate and she did not and like basically for like after this book pretty much like until the end of her life she was celibate and she was not in a relationship with anyone, which I think is really interesting.
That is, by the way, I think we lost Crystal.
I wonder if that was, I wonder what drove her to that decision.
There's a quote and I can try to look up what she said. um okay, I have the quote. So this was in 2017. She was giving an interview and she was discussing, she said that she was single, and she said, I don't have a partner. I've been celibate for 17 years. I would love to have a partner, but I don't think my life is less meaningful. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And she died in 2021. So I don't know if anything changed, but
That is really interesting.
well, the book definitely emphasizes love beyond just romantic love. So maybe she felt more fulfillment in her life pursuing other kinds of love.
Like friend love or family love.
Yeah,
Maybe those relationships that she mentioned in the book like were very kind of um like maybe they were kind of scarring for her and she felt like she couldn't do it again. I don't know.
I
or it
feel
wasn't
like
worth the pain if you could find it in other love in other ways.
she also identified as queer. So I feel like maybe people in her like time, like I mean right now it's still not, I don't want to say accepted because it is, we are more open about that, but maybe the people her age or the people she was trying to pursue weren't okay with that.
Like it wasn't as accepted as it should be.
Uh-huh. So maybe that's why for 17 years, but I don't know.
I'm
That's
reading the
interesting.
part in her Wikipedia though, and it's like kind of confusing because she says she's queer past gay. Past means not. And then she says queer, being queer is not who you're having sex with, but about being at odds with everything around it. As the essence of queer, I think not of Tim Dean, don't know who that is, work on being queer and queer not as being not about being who you're having sex with. That can be a dimension of it, but queer is as being about the self that is at odds with everything around it and has to invent and create and find a place to speak, to thrive, and to live. So it almost seems like she meant queer more in that like she doesn't fit in with society.
Mhm. Like she
I've
doesn't
never heard that before. Queer past gay.
Like she didn't want long-term relationships, marriage, stuff that would be like the common course in American society.
Hmm.
There was a section too, right, where it said her sister was lesbian and the sister was like not comfortable with reaching out to the family about it, and she was encouraging him to do so or something. I wonder if she also felt that though, like maybe she didn't want to deal with her family feelings about it in case they were negative. I'm gonna try to find that section.
Yeah, she did say that. And I just feel like, I don't know, I think it's harder for the people, the older generations to one, come out, but two, also like find a partner if you're still kind of like not fully, not that they're not accepting themselves, but not fully being open with everyone else. So if they're struggling with that, I feel like it kind of like then struggles with like their actual like relationships or starting a relationship or being in a relationship. But then again, she did have a sister, so maybe there's that. I was trying to read another article, but it's going too deep. I can't. Just like, no, it's not giving me the answer I want.
I'm skimming through the last section. There's like some things that caught my interest. I'm trying to find them again. On a general note, I feel like it is like disturbing, like some of the things that she is saying about like the quotes that she's putting about books that are also problematic in themselves. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is what people used to think was real before.
My back is starting to hurt.
You got disconnected for a bit. Did your battery run out or something?
No, I don't know what happened there. I honestly was like, how come I don't hear them anymore?
I was like, oh no, we lost Crystal.
My arm just cracked. Paola's on Instagram.
I sent you the podcast on Nicole Brown Simpson.
Oh, okay.
It's two parts. I just sent part one, but
Or maybe, yeah, maybe she just saw other forms of love that were more important than that. Because she was in, I think, she gave a speech at a university in
Mhm.
2002. Oh my gosh, I didn't read this part. This is why you shouldn't skim. It's saying that it was a controversial commencement speech, and it says, as many booed. And I was like, oh shit. So they were booing her as she instructed the students to realize the essential goodness of their being. Um, so pretty much, and like it keeps going more into it. But I feel like maybe, yeah, she was saying like there's other stuff and maybe not the romance love is as important in her eyes. So maybe those are the 17 years. So that's a little while though. Is she
Yeah.
that intense? Hmm.
she did say that she does not like to lie and that she likes to tell the truth in her eyes, even if it's uncomfortable. So maybe she was being very kind of uncompromising in what she was saying.
Yeah.
And they were like, no.
Yeah, I'm out.
challenging the patriarchy too, and just like the typical like norms that were believed in that time.
Mhm.
I follow this one channel on YouTube that like re-examines like different tabloid stories and stuff from the 2000s.
Mhm.
And it's crazy like looking back on like, you know, how the press covered like Britney, or how the press covered like Lindsay Lohan, or like all of those, or like Amanda Bynes, and like all of those stories, and like how it was covered, and how we all just kind of like thought that was okay. Like we were like, and I remember like I thought it was, you know, thought the exact same kinds of things. And I'm glad that that's changed, but it's crazy like how all of us just had like internalized misogyny, and like we were just so judgmental.
What's the name of the YouTube?
It's called Mila Tequila. She does these like 1 hour analysis videos.
Why does that sound like Tila Tequila? But no,
It does.
I was
she's
gonna
no, she's
say.
totally no, I'm pretty sure that's why she picked that name.
I remember those shows. Oh my gosh. I don't know why I watched them. I
She
forgot who
just
I
did a
was
thing on
watching.
Jersey Shore, which was another like, you know,
That's
trash show.
I was telling somebody about I don't know if you guys remember Flavor Flav and his
Yeah.
TV show.
Flavor of Love.
Yeah. I forgot who I was mentioning it to. And they were like, who? What? And I was like, did you not watch his whole dating show? Like with New York and the spitting of like, what was her name? Buck Wild or something. And they were so confused. And I'm like, I sound crazy. But this was a show. I was
Mhm.
like, wow, what was I watching?
That was a good show.
It was so much drama. It's hilarious. Oh man. But I'm gonna put that. Mila Tequila. Mila Tequila?
Yeah.
Because I feel like there was, as you were describing that, I feel like I saw that there was gonna be some documentary or something of how a lot of the women in the media back then were judged way too extreme. And it's like it shouldn't have been like that. And it was okay. Like everyone was just like, oh yeah, you're trash. Or like, yeah, that's right, you deserve that. But it
You're
was
trash.
Yeah,
What does it
like do
remind me
you
of The Notebook?
remember like
You're trash, trash, trash.
they'd show like upskirt pictures. Do you guys remember that? Like they'd be like,
Mhm.
oh, this person caught without her underwear, and there'd be like a picture on the front page.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know that.
Which is
Yeah, the
still-
tabloids were so brutal back then.
Which I guess is still an issue because I don't know if you guys watch the Kardashians, but I do. And Kylie was talking about how some photographer like got down on his stomach to like take a picture of her skirt when it was published.
That's
Yeah.
That's
sad.
And while I'm glad that there's been a lot of positive changes, I am kind of wish we still had unhinged TV shows like Slave and Jersey Shore.
Well, Jersey Shore's still going, isn't it?
Yeah, there's like a family
A
reunion
spin-off or
thing,
something.
and it has more episodes than the original show.
Oh,
Wow.
Apparently.
but Snooki's not getting arrested anymore.
No.
They're not like Meatball.
Yeah, this girl did like literally, she did 2 videos, 2 hours each, and I watched the whole thing, and she covered the entire run of the show. And it's like fascinating. Like a lot of them actually got arrested. I think Dina got arrested a few times too, because they were always drunk. And something that she pointed out, which I actually think is like pretty like a good point, is that like back then, like there wasn't social media, and like people would just kind of like go on these shows because they got cast and they just wanted to be on a show. But now it's like you go on the show to become an influencer.
Mhm.
Like all those Love is Blind like stars or whatever, like they all just like go on social media right after, and then they like start, you know, influencing stuff. It's like a means to an end. Whereas
Mhm.
back then, like you would just cast all these crazy people that just were crazy.
Like The Bachelor too, yeah.
I was just gonna say The Bachelor and The Bachelorette is the same thing. Are you really here for love? Or are you here for like the different like sponsorships or stuff that they're gonna have you sell after? And I'm like, dude, honestly, they're all just want to become influencers. Like,
For herpes.
it's not it's not even no, like even though the main bachelorettes or the ones who end up finding a partner, they don't last. Not that, you know, the show actually makes it. I don't think it would work. I still watch it, but they don't make it, and then at the end they're like, "Oh yeah, I'm just gonna, you know, add this, add that. There's an ad over here.
There's
Sponsor this," and I'm just like, "Really?"
like marriage wise, because I looked it up once, and sometimes when Rico passes by, because sometimes when I just need a break from life, I watch the old seasons, the ones I haven't seen before.
Yeah.
I'll just be watching it or having it in the background, and Rico will pass by and he'll look it up to see if they're still together or not. And very rarely are they still together.
Mm-mm.
Well, I'm excited to watch The Golden Bachelor.
I saw that. I think that one would be
That's a
more
really good
serious.
idea. I
It's
feel like it's a good idea because I feel like it's like something new, and maybe they would actually like have a more success other than like instead of like 21-year-olds.
Or like when I'm watching it and there's like 22-year-olds and I'm like, girl, you're barely like figuring yourself out. What do you mean you want to get married? Just to a rando like in a few weeks.
Wait, is the Golden Bachelor with other older women or
It's with-
25-year-olds?
No, older. They're both older.
Okay. I was gonna say, because that's
Yeah. That's problematic. um yeah, but there's a lot of those people, and usually the ones that end up making it to the end are the younger ones, and I'm like, really, you're not here for marriage. Come on, you don't even know what marriage really entails.
do we all?
No,
Do any of us?
but like, what was I can't remember where I heard or where I saw. There was a girl who got married young, and then I think by 25 or 30, I'm gonna have to look it up. She was like, I got married young. I thought this was the partner I wanted. And then I realized that, like, you know how they say that there's one part in your brain, I can't even remember the name of that either, fully develops, I think, by 25 in men.
Cortex.
What?
Prefrontal cortex.
Yeah, your frontal. Yeah. That part. And my friend and I always talk about it, and I can't believe I forgot it. But she's like, it fully developed, and I realized that this person was not the person I wanted to be with. So then they got divorced. And she was talking about like, oh no, why you shouldn't marry that young. You should like, you know, later on and blah blah blah. I can't remember where I saw that. I think it's a show. I don't know.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I definitely think it's you know, not to say it's never going to work or anything like that, but it's a lot more challenging because you're going to change a lot, and you'll have to both be aligned at the end of it, you know, and that's difficult.
Why is it that I keep yawning? It's only 8:30.
You're wearing a really cozy looking jacket, so
Yeah, it's like I'm like in.
You
I'm
look
ready for Mimi's, and I have a pile of laundry behind me that I have to fold before I go to bed.
I haven't seen the videos, but they're like, I'm just gonna shove it to the side, and
Oh, I'm probably gonna do that. I'll put it on Ramon's
that'll be a
chair.
problem for another day.
I'll take care of it next weekend when I've watched the new load.
Oh no! But I've been there.
I just pick off the pile.
When I was in college, my dorm room was just full of laundry. Like it was just stacked everywhere. It was horrible.
It's just like it's so easy to just put in the load and be like, got it.
Because you need clean underwear, but
Yeah,
then to
and
fold
then
it, put
you
it
dry
away.
it, and then you can just keep continue putting loads, and then you're like, shoot, I gotta put it away, and that is so hard. Why is it so hard? I don't know.
I say laundry is the worst chore because it's the one that like never ends. You always have more dirty clothes, and then you have to put it in the washer, then the dryer, then you have to take it out, and then fold it all, and then put it away. So it's like never ending cycle.
And it's not
Mhm.
quick.
Nope.
It's
Oh my
not
god, last weekend someone took my shit out of the dryer and I had the worst day because I was so pissed the entire day. I was like, fuck this guy. And like the moment like his stuff was or her stuff was already going in the dryer, I opened it up so that it would pause it. And I was like, fuck you. It's like the worst day.
Okay.
Where did they put your stuff?
On top of
okay.
the dryer.
That's
Yes, and
messed
it was
up.
like that was like the load that I had, like my delicate. So it was like all my leggings, all like, you know, so it was just like I was pissed. I was like, what if they stole something? Like
That's messed up.
it's
That's
yes.
wrong.
And that's why I was like, that's just like an invasion of privacy. And just like I'm the kind of person that looks at the timer because they have a timer on your phone. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna wait till there's 2 minutes and then walk over. They waited no time and took it out and put their stuff in. And I was like so upset. I was so
I'm
upset
like,
the
that sounds
entire
really
day.
messed up. You should have just taken off their stuff. But I was like, that's just gonna be dramatic.
No, I think it was
Super
enough that I
dramatic.
stopped the dryer. So I'm like, now you have to restart your load because fuck
Leave
you.
the door open and then just leave and be like,
That's literally what I did. I grabbed my clothes and I left their door open.
oh, put a dirty note. F you. I'm gonna steal all your
Yeah, I was
clothes.
like, what if my underwear was in there? I would have been so embarrassed. Luckily it wasn't, but still.
But yeah, still though.
I counted all my leggings. I was like, how many did I wear this week?
Damn. Read the last section. Woo! And then
Woo.
did you guys bring a book?
Yes.
I Googled best book to read during this time of year.
Oh my gosh.
And then I had to cross reference and make sure Corina hadn't read it.
I always have to do that. Make sure.
You might have already, and I don't know, like someone else, because apparently this is really popular.
I don't mind rereading them though. Which
Where
one?
did I have it?
What's your book? Oh, Dailene said Dracula.
Okay, so I can't pitch that one, but I already have that one, so I will be voting for it.
Exactly. I'll take that.
But no, I had, what did I had? What did I have? I just had it here. Oh, The Haunting on Hill House.
That was a good show.
Is it that one? Well, let me
Mhm.
confirm it was that one.
Funny that so Dailene sent me her pitch, and I was like, I was actually gonna pitch Dracula because I'm like, we keep talking about it. Corina always wants to pitch it, and I was like, but if someone already says it, then I'll just pitch something else. And Dailene was like, should I have a second choice? And I'm like, I mean, you could if you want, but that's just, that's up to you. So she told me The Haunting of Blackwood House. And I thought she was talking about The Haunting of the one you just said, the
Hill House.
Yeah, the Hill House. But I was like, oh, and she's like, no, it's a little different than the show or whatever. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. So yeah, we can add your haunting to the Haunting of the Hill House.
I think so. I think it's something about a ghost, haunted house. Family moves in.
Cool. Okay.
I really want to be spooked this year. I feel like I haven't been spooked as bad as The Shining. That was like the last. Like Misery was good. Like the Sandlot, like they're all good, but they weren't that spooky.
I was considering The Exorcist.
Okay, that one was also on my list, but I was like, it was also. But
Are you pitching it?
Well, I read this one, but I thought this one would be good too. But I was thinking it would be better to do one I haven't read, so I decided this.
Okay.
And
I also was thinking Carrie, but I'm pretty sure you lent me your book.
I did.
No, maybe not. I think never mind. I think I have, but you told me about it.
I think we talked about it once. That one's really good.
Yeah.
Every
But
week.
that one's still, I mean, I'll probably still read it this
That
month
one's a short
anyways.
one too, so I do recommend that one if you feel like a scary one. It's
Because
good.
that one was also on the list of scary books to
That one's
read.
good because you could read it. It's a good, I really liked it. And then you could watch the old movie and then the new movie.
I probably won't watch the movie because I don't like watching scary movies. I don't like to see it come to life. But I can
It's
read
not,
it and take
it's not too
pauses.
scary though. It's not too
No,
scary.
I don't know. I still get. I'm easily
Yeah.
like I easily get nightmares. But for
They
whatever
have-
reason, when reading it, it's different.
Mhm.
A new Exorcist movie's coming out.
Yes, I saw that when I went to go see Oppenheimer.
I went to go watch The Nun. It's actually good. I liked it.
Jesus, how can people sit
And-
through that?
And I went at night.
I had to cover my eyes for a lot of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my younger sister, I don't know why I thought she was more of a brave soul than what she actually is. The whole time we took our friend to, she was like this, and she was like actually hiding, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is good. This is a good scene. And I look over and she's like this, and I'm like, you're scared for this? But then again, I don't get scared as bad, so it's good.
What's up, it? I'm gonna scare you.
I would recommend it.
The interesting thing was the end was not scary to me, but all of the stuff leading up to it was really scary.
Yes. Yes. Where they're trying to get you, like you can see it coming where they're gonna scare you. It was actually pretty good. It wasn't like obvious and you're just like, okay, duh. But the ending, I agree with you.
I was scared just with the preview, so I don't know if I'll go see it in theaters. I might wait till it comes out because I think I am more of a chicken now, but I still do like watching scary movies.
See, if you like wait for it to come at your house, it's like come at your house. So like watch until you can see it when it's streaming. I feel like you can pause it and be like, okay, let me take a break.
You can take little breaks. and
Yeah.
noise,
Like, oh, that was a big one. Let's
the jump scare.
take a 10-minute.
I now want to have a marathon of like The Conjuring and
Jesus.
other one. Yeah, like I want to I want to see the whole thing.
Yeah. In San Juan Bautista ones, I was there like during the day and they played that little spooky song, the one that has like Hawaiian, like doo, 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 you know, like that song that they're always playing in that one. I think it's The Conjuring. And I was like, where is this song coming from? But it was just
It's following you.
yeah. Okay, so I'll stick with The Exorcist then.
Okay.
Ooh, we got some good ones this time, guys.
These are all gonna be really scary, yeah.
We're gonna be reading spooky books until December.
I kind of want to reread The Shining. I was following this Stephen King group on Reddit and someone was saying like, where should I start? I just bought Salem's Lot and The Shining, and some people were saying Salem's Lot is a really good fall book and The Shining is a good winter book, which I think it is. And I remember we read it in December, I think.
Mhm. My sister went to go visit in Colorado, the hotel, and I was like, "Hey, take pictures. This bitch didn't take any pictures for me."
Yeah. It's
And she's like, "Only of the thing of the there's like a picture or something that says, oh, it was filmed here." I was like, "What do I want to see that for? I want to see the entrance. I want to see the carpet. I want to see."
well, if you go, I think it has a different name now, but the Awani Hotel in Yosemite, the inside of that hotel inspired like the decorations.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least I know you guys didn't like it that much, but for
Yeah.
the movie, the inside.
Well, she didn't realize she went to they also have like a restaurant or bar in
Mhm.
it, and she went like I guess that's where they were doing the happy hour for the wedding she was going to, and she didn't realize it till the following day. And I
Mm.
was like, "Oh, you were there at night? Like,
I
did you
was
feel
there.
any sort of energy?"
I didn't go in though, and I really regret it. So I kind of want to go back, but I think it was soon after that we read The Shining. So I was like, oh, I should have gone in so I could see
Is The Exorcist William Peter?
William Peter Blatty. Yes,
Okay, thanks.
you got it. Wait, Rico sing her.
Oh my gosh, I was like, why is there floating hands?
The Exorcist.
Hi, Rico.
The Exor Rico. My mom said that she watched the movie The Exorcist as like a pretty young child and she was really scared. So my sister and I were forbidden from watching it. And one day, like, I think I was like maybe 16, 17, and my sister was probably then like 12 or 13. And I was like, hey, mom's not home, let's watch it. And my sister's like, yeah, let's watch it. And we didn't think it was that scary, but it's because of like the time it was made too. So I could imagine like back then, especially if you were really little, it would be very scary.
Man, I remember the first movie I ever saw, and it still haunts me to this day. It was Alien. The scene where it's like the fingers get chopped off from under the door. I can't. Ugh.
The
Mine
one
was Signs. First scary movie I saw was Signs.
That was similar, right? It's like Aliens, right? I think that might have been it.
The little alien walking across at the little kids' party.
Yeah, I was like something's like, what was that? It was like something behind a bush or something.
They kind of like hit the pinata and they're freaking aliens walking around.
Yeah. Okay, that was the movie. See, I don't even remember the name. I just remember that shit scared.
Mhm.
Like my core, like, oh, I could feel it. I remember I was in a trailer too, so it was just like the whole scene was just
oh my gosh.
Okay, I have Dracula, The Haunting of Hill House. Is that the name of it? I still got it wrong. The Exorcist. This is
I can pitch mine.
Mhm.
It's called The Final Girl Support Group.
Ooh, I saw that.
that one was also on the list.
It's won the Goodreads Best Horror of 2021.
Yeah, I saw it.
I'll read should I read the description?
Yeah.
Okay. In horror movies, the final girl is the one who's left standing when the credits roll, the one who fought back, defeated the killer, and avenged her friends, the one who emerged bloodied but victorious. But after the sirens fade and the audience moves on, what happens to her? Lynette Tarkington is a real-life final girl who survived a massacre 22 years ago, and it has defined every day of her life since. And she's not alone. For more than a decade, she's been meeting with 5 other actual final girls and their therapist in a support group for those who survived the unthinkable, putting their lives back together piece by piece. That is until one of the women misses a meeting and Lynette's worst fears are realized. Someone knows about the group and is determined to take their lives apart again, piece by piece. But the thing about these final girls is that they have each other now, and no matter how bad the odds are, how dark the night, how sharp the knife, they will never ever give up.
That sounds like the what was it called? What are those movies called? That's like a person dies like one by one.
Final Destination?
Final Destination.
Hmm.
I
I
feel like
hated those movies too.
I can't drive next to a semi without thinking something's gonna.
I can't even go to the Home Depot.
Home Depot is definitely
Like
Final
not in the
Destination
power
everywhere.
tool aisle. I can't go into the power tool aisle.
Those movies were very like gory.
That
Mhm.
oh gosh,
Good
why
boy.
did they stop making them? I'm just kidding.
But I think one of my favorite scary movies is probably Silence of the Lambs. So that one's like
Oh,
scary.
love that movie.
Saw that.
I've read the book too, but the movie was better.
I like both, but I read the other books too. I think it's like a series. They're interesting, but definitely more like kind of crime, like horror, I guess.
Yeah, it's more creepy than scary.
But that movie is definitely like unmatched. So good.
The scariest movie I've ever seen is Hereditary.
Yeah, same. It was disturbing.
Yeah, very disturbing.
Should I watch?
I mean, it's very disturbing.
That's why I'm like, I feel like I've heard that before. That it's
Right.
disturbing.
The most disturbing movie I watched is one time I watched The Centipede with my cousin. And that one was just like disgusting.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of a movie that actually has creeped me out and like stayed with me a little bit longer. And I think there was one, and it's not necessarily horror, but that one did creep me out. It was called like The Village, I think, with Joaquin Phoenix, and it was like about a cult or something.
That's M. Night Shyamalan.
Yeah, yeah. And
Same
then
with Signs.
what is it called? Pan's Labyrinth
Mm.
with a monster with a hand. That one was really scary. And I saw that when I was younger too. So that one did make an impact. And then The Omen, I like it, but I feel like that one is more creepy than the movie The Exorcist. That one scared me a little bit more. Just like the idea of it, I guess, more than what you actually see on the screen is what kind of creeps me out, I guess.
I think the Omen that has a little boy, right?
Little boy and a black dog, yeah.
I think the Omen was the first scary movie I watched.
Yeah, it's an older one too. Mhm.
I'm sure there's other ones that I like was in the background watching when my cousins were watching, but that's like the one that I'm like, I clearly remember watching from beginning to end and be like, oh my God.
Wait, Judith, when you were saying that you wanted to see the Exorcist series, is Annabelle in that same series?
Yeah, so the Conjuring, The
Okay.
Conjuring, Annabelle, and The Nun are all in a universe, which I had no idea.
How does that make sense? They're all completely different.
They're all connected.
How?
The Conjuring, like they show artifacts that are related to the other movies.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So in the first
I feel like that'd be
Conjuring,
interesting to watch just to like pick up on the flow. Kind of like
Yeah.
how when I started watching the Avengers series, like
Mhm.
where it's like they're all somewhat connected.
Mhm. They even have, I think they included La Llorona one too, which I didn't watch.
Oh yeah, that one is in the same too.
Yeah, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is a universe. I
I
thought it
saw
was just the
that one
second
too,
movie
but
of
I
The
don't
Nun.
remember anything.
Which one?
I saw that one too, but I don't remember anything about it.
Yeah,
La
and I
Llorona.
feel like, I mean, they
It
didn't
wasn't
come
that
out
good.
back to back either. So like to go back and kind of watch him would be kind of cool.
I think out of that series, the best ones are The Conjuring and The Conjuring 2. Those are the two that I think are the best, and the rest are okay.
I didn't find the Conjuring ones, I was gonna say funny. Scary. I was laughing in them just because I'm like, oh, you tried to scare me there, huh? It's funny. And I was laughing at other people screaming.
I think
You are definitely like you should watch Hereditary then because maybe it will finally break you. Because you seem like you don't get scared easily.
Yeah. Well, you know what? The ones that scare me are more of like realistic. Like there's this one movie, what was his name? Like more of like terrorism and like someone is chasing you and they're gonna kill you. Like this one
Well,
is
this was like my dreams, like nightmares.
yeah, no, like that like it could be real. And I can't remember the name of it. I'll have to look it up. But it was a guy,
Uh-huh.
he was an engineer, and he went to go work in, I feel like somewhere in Asia, and they were either after him or his family, so they were just running away from these like terrorists that were trying to kill them. And that to me, like I was scared throughout the whole movie. I'm just like, oh my gosh, I hope nothing happens to them. You know, like I could imagine myself just like trying to hide from them, and that was scary to me. This paranormal stuff, I'm just kind of like, oh, eh. I don't know. I guess
A really good scary movie I saw last year was Barbarian. Did
Oh,
you
yeah.
guys see that?
yeah.
That one was like very good because it was like very like it was like three different movies almost, and it like you didn't know what was gonna happen.
Mhm.
I'll add it to my list too.
we should put it in the chat, like what are like the horror movies you or terror you recommend, or which one has scared you the most.
Coraline.
That one is scary.
That was my book. That's my book suggestion is
Is
Coraline.
it? Oh my god, I want to
Yes!
review
Oh,
it too.
I love that. Oh my gosh.
It's one of my
Why am
favorite
I liking
movies.
all of these options? We can't have them all.
That movie just makes me feel depressed.
No, it's like
But in a
it's
good way.
creepy. Yeah. Yeah.
I've never seen it.
It's so good.
Wasn't it
It's a stop motion movie.
Mm-hmm.
but
They
wasn't it based on like another like a children's book or something?
Yeah, Neil Gaiman. Coraline.
Yeah.
Most of these are movies, so
Mhm.
we can depending on what gets picked, we might be able to watch
Movie
the
marathon.
film or the TV show because Hill House is a TV show.
Mhm. Coraline. How fun.
I'm excited. We have I think every time we've done horror, I feel like we've had, well, not that we don't have great selections other times, but I think I got just super excited about horror. I
Yeah.
feel like I want to read all of it.
Yeah, the one I was gonna suggest, because I knew someone was gonna mention Dracula. Now I don't want to. I don't want to talk about it anymore. It's not a good option. Like, let's just not. I think we have
I'm curious to know what it was though.
No, yeah, just tell us.
five books. It's called Then She Was Gone. Looking for the little, what do you call it? Where'd it go? I have to look it. I think it was mostly this girl goes missing and then she appears with like some other, not necessarily family, and then the mom is like, wait, is that my daughter? Yeah, so it goes, then she was 16, her mother's golden girl. She had her whole life ahead of her, and then in the blink of an eye, Ellie was gone. Now it's been 10 years since Ellie disappeared, but Laurel has never given up hope of finding her daughter. Then one day, a charming and charismatic stranger called Floyd walks into a cafe and sweeps Laurel off her feet. Before too long, she's staying the night at his house and being introduced to his 9-year-old daughter, Poppy. Yeah, Poppy is precocious and pretty, and meeting her completely takes Laurel's breath away because Poppy is the spitting image of Ellie when she was that age. And now all those unanswered questions, what have happened, all the questions that have haunted Laurel come flooding back. What happened to Ellie? Where did she go? Who still has secrets to hide? So the girl didn't come back.
Mm.
It's just another girl that reminded her of her daughter. And she's like, what happened to my daughter?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's it.
I'm just gonna go looking for her.
But I want all these other ones. This one is more like not spooky.
It still sounds like an interesting book to like to
Yeah.
read, like kind of like a mystery, like what
Yeah.
happened.
Psychological thriller.
I
Mhm.
think you should add it.
Yeah.
Okay. But don't pick it. I want one of the other books. The other ones are way more. I want to watch a movie with it, so. But I mean, if you want to go for it, but I would not. We have 6 books. I didn't ask Julie if she had a book or not, but I think
She
No,
said
Julie
she's really
said
excited
she
though.
didn't. Yeah.
She didn't,
didn't?
but she didn't, but she's super excited for the.
Oh, you're right. You're right. She did say that.
She loves Spooky Month. She loves.
This is a
thriller.
newfound genre for me that I didn't think I think I say this every year. It's like I didn't think I would.
Enjoy.
Me too.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Same.
And then every year I count in, like, I never really picked up romance books before. So here we go.
Oh, okay. I'll send you guys the survey so then you guys can vote. I'll try to do it as soon as Tuesday. So then we can just have them.
Thank
Yes. Well, have a good rest of your night. Hopefully the rest of your week is nice
Poppin'.
and not too stressful. Okay, good night.
you.
Bye.
Don't get spooked out.